when you had decided and you realized that you wanted to go back in, you had to break the news to your family again. How did it go that time? Was it different? The same thing? Was your niece born already?
Yeah. My niece was born already. And a few nieces were born, definitely. My parents knew. I think it was funny. I remember going to mass with them earlier on when I had left, right? And I remember going to mass with them. And I think that they felt like it was nice to have their kid back. And I remember after communion, I was just, it's a typical seminarian thing that we're kind of built up with, of like a prayer pattern of sorts. So like after communion, of course, I'm going to pray. I'm going to do my prayer of Thanksgiving. I'm just going to, and I went to a Benedictine monastery / seminary college. So there was a little bit more contemplative nature to my prayer, I suppose, that they could just feel or that I exuded. All this to say, I remember sitting in that pew praying my prayer of Thanksgiving after communion. And then afterwards, my mom was like, she whispered in my ear, she was like, if you want to go back to seminary, you can go.
Wow. How did that hit you?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was great to hear it.
Yeah.
And I said, and she said too, if that was the only reason why you left, you should know you can go back now.
Wow.
I was like, well, I just started this thing, so maybe not yet. But I kept that, right? I kind of
giving you that stamp of approval after all those years. After wow, I would have cried right then and there. I mean, I'm getting all teary eyed right now just thinking about it. Wow. Yeah, and how your dad and your brother? How are they?
They really didn't comment much, right? And so then fast forward 3 years, and then it's that time to tell them like I'm gonna go back. They have already been sensing in me, kind of pushing me to realize like, what are you gonna do with your life? Like you're not happy with your ad. I'm like, you're right. I'm not. There's something agitated, and I felt like St. Augustine, right? Like my heart was so restless. I was not settling anywhere in anything. Even job-wise, like even the job that I loved doing was becoming tedious, and because there was just some interior restlessness happening.
Yeah.
So I remember telling I told my dad first, which is funny because I told my mom first last time. So I told my dad first. He said, okay, well, I was like, hey, can I talk to you at some point? He's like, yeah. Also, I need to go to this doctor checkup thing in the Woodlands. Can you come with me? He was like, sure. And I need you to drive me. I was like, okay, cool. It wasn't serious. It was just a checkup, but he wanted me to drive. So there we are in the car driving. We're getting there. And I'm just like, I just told him in the car, here's what I'm thinking. You've been asking me what I want to do with my life. And here's the answer. Here's this meeting that just happened. I was like, Dad, I'm ready to go back. Like, I want to go back. Yeah, it's like, it's time. And I remember him just like looking at me and just going like, wow. He said, I figured this is what you wanted to do. And I'm glad that you finally made this choice. He's like, all I want is for you to make the choice, be happy. And I don't care if I don't understand it, I'm going to support it.
Wow. That is fantastic. I'm sure you prayed for that moment a lot while you were in the seminary the first time. Wow. That's beautiful. Beautiful moment for your dad to say that, And, that sign of saying like, I know you're your own man now. You're making, and for him to say, I don't completely understand it, to admit that and to say to you, but go ahead and do it. Wow.
Correct. And then it was time to tell my mom, right? So then I get home and I'm like, Mom, can we talk? She's like, yeah, here it is. I'm ready to go back. Like, you told me this a long time ago, like 2 years ago now. So I'm just kind of fulfilling that. But yeah, I think I'm ready to go back. She's like, okay, good. She's like, I bet you thought that was going to be hard. I was like, yeah, I thought it was going to be hard. I was like, are you kidding me? She's like, yeah, no, it's not that hard. She's like, I'm sure it was harder to tell your dad this time. I was like, it was like more impactful, that is. Yeah.
She knew, wow.
She already knew. She was like, oh. She's like, good. She's like, well, whatever it is, let me know. Let me know when I need to show up to whatever, I'll be there. It was the same sentiment of like, I don't know, I don't understand this fully, but I will support you regardless. So sure enough, ever since then, it's like, okay, I'm being installed as a lector, the ministry of lector and acolyte. Here's the mass time. You should come to this. And they were there.
Wow.
They've been there since.
That's fantastic. And then you go into the seminary. Now, this time, I'm sure your attitude was a lot different because you've got the support of your family. Whereas the first time you go in, you're still kind of torn.
Correct. It was definitely different. Having their support was very helpful. I think I was also a lot more assured of like, they told me from the beginning of my discernment in 2009 that whenever I leave seminary for something like this, that God takes my place. Like God takes your seat at that table, you know? And it's true, but I didn't want to believe it or believe that that could be enough for my parents. Like, yeah, I get that for most families, but not for mine. Like mine are really struggling with this. Like this is not going to be easy.
Did you have any other seminarian friends that had similar issues?
I think so, but at the time it was so, and maybe even now, I don't know. It seems more natural to speak of those parents who are supportive, and for that community to be created, than to have those who don't get the support from their parents and create a community out of that. Although I will say that in some ways, I look back on this whole experience and I'm like, I'm glad that it went the way it did. In many ways, I saw parents who were almost pushing their kids too much at those early years of college, like pushing them to go to seminary, and then seeing them struggle through their vocation through that 1 year or two of discernment and then leave. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want my parents to look like that. I don't know what they're going to look like when they finally do, but I don't want this cookie cutter sorts of pushy parents of sorts. So it was, I look back and I'm like, thank God that I was like, I don't know what I envisioned my supportive parents to look like. But when I finally got them, I was like, this is it. This is the right picture.
This is the way.
They're still the way they are, but they're willing to go on board. And that's more than I could ever ask for.